Ladies and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And in fact, I think this is my outro music that's playing here, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's just groove along with it for a little bit here. There we go. I mean, it's Sunday after all. Not as if I planned to do this. Not as if it's something that I was, that I had in the works for weeks. This is just like something that I decided to pull out here on a Sunday afternoon. Going around Twitter, talking to people, chit-chatting, talking about the wonderful weekend of wrestling that we've just had between AEW's All Out card, which was fantastic. We had Royal Quest, which I didn't get a chance to see yet. I'm waiting for it to pop up on New Japan World, but from all accounts, that was another fun card. And of course, NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because people have been telling me, I've been going around saying there's not a lot of people recapping it, which is true. And boy, there's a couple of things on this card here that deserve our attention. But before we get into that, let's just go through the regular spiel. Folks, thank you for being here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. There's a bunch of people here who've decided to take time out of their relaxing, chill out Sunday afternoon to come and listen to me bellow into a microphone. Why? Who? Outside my immediate family, my children, maybe my girlfriend. Who wants that? Not even sure my girlfriend wants that. I'm really glad that people like Charles Harkins are here. Blaine here, the world's most handsome mod, is here as well. Carlos, Robert, Larry, friends of the show. I mean, it's fantastic. It's great. And if you've never had the chance to join the live chat here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, I don't know. It's the kind of thing that I talk about. It's the kind of thing I talk about, and I keep telling you people that you should join. And until you do, you don't know what you're missing. That's just how it goes. You just don't know what you're missing out on until it actually happens. So come and give it a shot just one time, and see how it goes. And if you're watching this live on YouTube, hey, why don't you give it a little thumbs up there on the video? That'd be fantastic. Share the link out. Let's get more people in here. The more the merrier is how the old cliche goes, and since I like to think in cliches, it just works really, really well with me. So be sure to jump in here, give us a like. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because yes, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is also available in podcasting format on your favorite podcast application, well then please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, a review, a subscription, whatever it is you need to do to show a bit of love. Every tiny little bit helps. You're just like, hey, I'm just one person. I don't know how my like is going to change. It changes. It changes something. It's so important. It's important to me. It's important to other people. Just do it. It's a great way to show support for the show. You can also show support for the show by buying a t-shirt. I have my t-shirts available at whatforapparel.com/I'm not dead without the punctuation. The link is in the description. You can go check that out and get yourself a nice handsome t-shirt to make sure that no one can even begin to fathom that you've passed on, that you have shed your mortal coil. Indeed, sometimes you need one of those, or you can show also support by tipping your boy Warren. You head over to tinyurl.com/tipwarren. That's pretty neat. It's a good way to show support for the show. So we are here today to talk about NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, and this was look. There's a lot of good stuff that happened on this card, and it's as many of you know, I cover NXT UK for Fightful over on Fightful Select, and don't forget to check that out over on Fightful Select, my 205 Live NXT UK recap show, which I do every Wednesday. There's I cover it every week because I really like wrestling, and I love what they're trying to build with NXT UK. I think there's a lot of good to come out of it, but there's still a lot of people who are sleeping on the brand, and I can understand because the weekly show is good, generally speaking. Sometimes it has flashes of brilliance, but it's very uneven sometimes. So it is entirely possible to stumble upon an episode of NXT UK which isn't up to snuff, and then all of a sudden you're stuck with and then you're stuck with an opinion of NXT UK being very, very underwhelming. However, the depth of talent that exists on this roster is phenomenal, both on the men's side and the women's side. It's just ridiculous the amount of talent that they have here, and given the opportunities, given the moments for them to shine, there is no reason why they cannot shine. And boy, did a bunch of people shine yesterday on this card. Let's go right into it. Let's start talking about it. So let's go right ahead. We'll start talking about it right now. The first match we had was on the card was Noam Dar versus Travis Banks. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Noam Dar's. Excuse me about this. I'm just adjusting my microphone. Apologies for the little rumblings here. See that? It's a surprise Sunday stream. There's a level of improv. Noam Dar versus Travis Banks. Noam Dar, known to many people as a member of the 205 Live crew. He's joined NXT UK recently. He is from Scotland, after all. The Scottish supernova, in case you hadn't been paying attention. So I think he has become a full-time member of the roster, and I think it's good for him. And because I think he has a kind of personality that can really thrive on a format like NXT UK. Travis Banks is one of the cornerstones of the UK's development, the UK brand's development. He won he was in the finals of the final NXT, it wasn't NXT, excuse me, of the final UK Championship tournament, which was held in June 2018. He squared off against Zach Gibson in that final. You can tell that management likes Banks a lot. They really, really do. And you know what? So do I. I like both of these guys here. The crowd was entirely behind Banks. He's got great babyface energy. And that's fantastic because Noam Dar has great dickhead heel energy, which the audience really hones in on. There's a lot of back and forth from the start between the both of them, which of course leads into a stare down. I'm still okay with this, but I'm just wondering, more and more matches these days are starting with, we can counter out of each other's moves, and then there's a stare down. At what point are we going to get sick of this? Are we already sick and we just haven't noticed it? Kind of like when you start having the flu. You've had when the symptoms of the flu kick in, you've already had the flu for a couple of days beforehand. So is it incubating right now? Is it contracted and we just don't have the sickness yet? The symptoms of the sickness? I don't know. Banks kicks the left leg of Dar, and he tosses him out of the ring. Banks hits a running kick while on the apron to knock Noam Dar down. Dar then sends back to the top rope, and where he jumps off with a clothesline, covers Banks, but only gets two. Banks eventually, a little later on, takes Dar down with a crossface where he held onto the arm, but Dar eventually does get to the ropes. Dar kicks the legs, hits a fisherman's buster suplex, and he gets a 2 count on that. Your boy Banks is kicking out of everything. Banks went for a jumping kick off the ropes, but Dar caught the leg and slapped on a leg submission, which was really cool. Banks fought out of it, and they start striking at each other. Both guys eventually end up flat on their backs. A little later on, Banks sends Dar across the ring, and then Banks jumps off the ropes with a double stomp off the turnbuckle, and he covers Noam Dar, who kicks out at 2. That was nice. That was a fun spot. Banks sends Dar into, a little later on, Banks goes up top and hits a double foot stomp, a coup de grace, basically, for a really, really close near fall. One would maybe even say a 2.9. But Banks came back with a rolling elbow to the jaw. Dar counters back with a bicycle kick. Not a bicycle kick, a pump kick. Banks then blocked an attack from Dar. Hits a running knee. He hits the ropes, but Dar kicks the leg and a jumping kick to the face. Called the Nova Roller. And he wins the match. I was a bit surprised that Noam Dar won, because I think that Travis Banks has that kind of good babyface energy that the division needs, the brand needs, I should say. He works really, really well, and the audience is already into him. He came off a loss against Walter recently. I felt like a win here would have helped establish him more to the NXT faithful. But hey, if they continue on this feud, I'm okay with that. And Noam Dar, it's not that he's not deserving, and he's doing fantastic work. I really, really think that he's finding his footing here, and he's going to thrive in NXT UK. It's a good fit. It's a good fit. It was a good competitive match between them both. Just fantastic stuff. I like this match a lot. It was a good opener. Carlos in the chat says Dar versus Banks was a great opener. Definitely the right choice to open. That's right. And Blaine says Jim Smallman is using Noam Dar like he used to use him back in the earlier days of Progress. Not untrue. Next, we had a surprise appearance. Well, Cesaro's appearance wasn't a surprise. He had announced that he was going to head over to NXT UK. Now, this is important, right? To just keep in mind, everyone. Cesaro hasn't joined the NXT UK brand. Not as far as we know. There's nothing that's indicated or that has led us to believe that Cesaro has left NXT Raw, to join NXT UK. That's important. But it turns out that surprisingly enough, Ilya Dragunov went to the ring, and he basically accepted Cesaro's open challenge. And man, I was all about this. This was fantastic. This was really, really fantastic. This was a hard-hitting match from the get-go, and one of these matches that I just didn't think of. Was like, the dots never connected here, but when I saw both men in the ring, I'm like, yeah, plug me in on this. Let's make this happen. Let's go. They go at each other very, very early on. Cesaro dumps Dragunov out of the ring. As he gets back into the ring, Cesaro hits a body slam followed by a leg drop, a belly to back suplex. Cesaro then drives Dragunov, chokes him. Well, rope hangs him, ropes him on the ropes, the bottom rope. Cesaro even caught Dragunov into the Cesaro swing, and boy did he catch him in the Cesaro swing. It was the big swing. It was the biggest of the big swings. It lasted 40 seconds? I think the audience was counting. That was ridiculous. That was really, really something. Cesaro even got a crossface submission on him, on Dragunov. Dragunov eventually fought out. He started fighting back on Cesaro, flipped up against the ropes and hit a clothesline. He hit the 6-1 line as well. They just completely started laying into each other. Back in the ring, Dragunov went up top and hit a drop kick right across the ring. That was crazy stuff. Blaine in the chat says that he got 40 revolutions. Okay, 40 spins. And Robert Larry says, I timed it for 1 minute and 5 seconds. Okay, so I was partially right. Thank you, chat, for correcting me here. Dragunov started fighting back. He gave a big knee to Cesaro's face and a Death Valley driver right on the turnbuckles. The fans were behind this, and they were popping huge the entirety of this match. Dragunov went up top for a senton splash onto Cesaro, covered him, but only got 2. And Dragunov went for the torpedo Moscow, but Cesaro caught him, launched him into the air, and hit him with the most massive of massive European uppercuts, and ended it all with the Neuralizer for the win. This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun, and I know that a lot of people are saying this was so good to see Cesaro in NXT and doing stuff, and I do not disagree with this. I do not disagree with that assessment, because what he did was absolutely fantastic. He held his own, but it's Cesaro. It's essentially, you know what? It's Cesaro that we saw. I'm not surprised to have seen what we've seen, because that's what he's capable of doing. We're just not used to seeing it anymore. That's the real tragedy of it all. I can't help but feel a little bummed at the fact that, how do I say this without sounding like a complete asshole and very, very condescending, because I'm a nice guy. We've missed Cesaro at his peak. Like right now, at the point where he is in his career right now, we've missed Cesaro. He still has some fantastic matches in him, but 5-6 years ago, before they completely bungled him, they being WWE, Cesaro at his athletic peak was something to behold. We've still got some great years with him ahead, but I honestly think that the magical ones are unfortunately a little behind. Now, that said, I'm not saying that it's time for him to hang it up. Far from it. Give me more of these matches. That was extraordinary. And see, we're talking about Cesaro and everything here, but this was Ilya Dragunov's WWE coming out party. This is a guy who made a name for himself again on the European Indies. He had this one match against Walter in WXW, which solidified him. That just made him into a name, into a must-see talent. And if you never saw him on the independent circuit, if you never saw him do stuff before being signed to NXT, I don't think that you quite got exactly how special this guy is. I think this match with Cesaro definitely helped the comprehension. This match was absolutely fantastic. When I watched it, at that point in time, I was like, this is a match of the weekend contender right here, folks. It was amazing, amazing stuff. This was so good. And Dragunov just broke out. He had a stellar performance. Of course, he had someone to help carry him to a stellar performance. Sure. But he wasn't carried by any stretch of the imagination. Dragunov, despite the fact that he lost, does not look weak. If anything, this match made him look better than anything he's done in NXT UK right now. He looked absolutely fantastic. Next, we had Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster becoming the new NXT UK Tag Team Champions by defeating the Grizzled Young Veterans and Gallus in a triple threat tag team match. Look, I mean, this was a fantastic match, an absolutely fantastic match. And you can go back and start talking about how WWE mistreats its tag teams, the stuff on Raw. You've listened probably to my show this week, last Thursday, where I ranted savagely on how they're treating the tag teams and how the tag team gauntlet was the tag team turmoil was a bunch of shit. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a tag team problem throughout WWE, on main roster, on NXT, and on NXT UK as well. But if you're going to put guys into tag team situations like this, at least you're giving them the room and the creativity to give us stunning matches. Not just good matches, stunning tag team matches. I mean, this tag team match right here rivaled a lot of other tag team matches that we saw this weekend in its intensity, its creativity, some great spots. I adored the last the final sequence here. It's not exactly the final sequence, like the last third of the match was absolutely crazy, where you have let me see here, let me just run through my notes here real quick. Yeah, you have Andrews, even before that. Let me see here. Yeah, right here. Okay, there we go. We have Gibson. We have the Grizzled Young Veteran and what did they call themselves informally? South Wales Subculture. Not sure about the name. Not quite sure about the name, but you do have Gibson and Andrews are going at it. Gibson goes for a suplex, but Andrews flips it around into a stunner. Webster goes up top to hit a swanton on the back of Gibson, which looked fantastic. Drake then gets in with a running dropkick on Andrews. Gibson hits a spinning suplex, and Drake goes up top for a 450 splash and covers Andrews, who kicks out at 2. That was crazy. The spinning suplex is helter-skelter, right? And that's something that the Grizzled Young Veterans have ended matches with before. So that was absolutely fantastic, and the audience was behind it. Of course, they were behind Webster and Andrews, who are both Welsh. That sure, the hometown crowd helps in these situations, but I don't care where you were in the world. If you weren't popping for this match, you're probably a mic stand. And you just stand there and you don't do nothing except holding microphones. Webster then comes back in with a knee, and then double headbutts follow, and then the Gallus boys come in, start clearing out the ring. Gibson holds up Wolfgang, who's on the floor. And Drake hits a clothesline after doing a suicide dive. And man, they ran into the barricades. This was so good. The audience was really behind it. There we go. And eventually Andrews gets his team back on top of things with a double stunner on both guys. Both members of the Grizzled Young Veterans. Webster hits a 630 splash on Drake. who covers him, and Gibson pulls the referee outside of the ring. Webster then hits a forearm on Drake. Gibson then gets a blind tag in, and Drake lifts up Webster for the Ticket to Mayhem double move, which should have ended the match because that is the Grizzled Young Veterans' signature finisher. But instead, Gibson tells Drake to go take out the Gallus boys just to make sure they can't interfere. So Drake hits a suicide dive on Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang on the floor. And while Gibson goes for a cover and the referee starts counting, Mark Andrews with pinpoint precision hits a shooting star press off of the top rope, the fall to pieces. Just as the referee is coming down for the 3 count, breaks up the pin, and Webster covers Gibson for the pinfall win. The place went nuts. The place went completely nuts. This was a fantastic tag team match. And I know a lot of people, and this is not a point of comparison. This is not a thing where you're like, oh, well, AEW did all this stuff, but you know what? WWE can do this stuff just as well. This is not one of these things. But I know a lot of people are talking about the Lucha Bros and Young Bucks from last night. Decidedly so. It was... For those of you who were listening, I did like a twisting symbol to the side of my head, and I crossed my eyes, sort of indicate that it was crazy. See, but you cannot sleep on this match. This tag team match was absolutely bonkers. I thought it was absolutely bonkers. I loved it, and what I like about this going forward is that you got 2 great baby faces put over. You really do. Andrews and Webster have solidified their places as baby faces here. There were some fantastic near falls the whole way through. I really thought that the match was going to be shorter with the way that the pace of the match was and what they were doing throughout. I thought this was going to end a lot sooner than it did, and we were better off with it being as long as it was. So now all I can see really is Marcel Bartel and Fabian Aichner coming in to take the titles off of Mandrews and Webster. And I'm completely fine with that. I am 100% completely fine with that. So yeah, there is. So if you haven't seen this match, don't sleep on it. Absolutely do not sleep on it. This was fantastic. Now, the question, though, that we can ask ourselves going forward is, or at least let me nuance this a bit. This is by no means an indication of how great the NXT UK Tag Team division is, because it's not. All of WWE right now is suffering as far as tag team wrestling is concerned. Not even in NXT do we have that the level of tag team action that we had just last year, or depth that we had just last year. So it's the same thing here. Mark Andrews and Webster, they're 2 singles guys that were put together in a tag team. Gibson and Drake, they did work as a tag team on the indie division. So, they do have history and they have become champions. So that legitimizes you. You have Gallus, who's been put together as a tag team. The Hunt. That's about it. Mustache Mountain, if you want to consider that Mustache Mountain is really acting as a tag team these days, which they're not. It's more like it's really an in and out thing, but I guess Mustache Mountain is still around. But Bartel and Aichner are fantastic, and they're probably going to be lined up to be the next champions. It's not that fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But I guess there's an argument to be made that you don't need to have tons of tag teams if the stable of tag teams that you do have is fantastic. And I'm down with that. Robert Larry in the chat says, Flash Morgan Webster is so enjoyable to watch. I love his ring attire. Me too. I'm a big sucker for mod fashion, including his bike helmet. And Webster at first he seemed a little off in a couple of moves that he was trying to pull off. Didn't seem quite as crisp. And I got a little nervous. I think he was a little nervous at first. And I think his nerves settled and he was able to get back into the swing of things, because and thankfully I was a little scared for him at first. The last man standing match, the last man standing was Joe Coffey. And the last man not standing was Dave Mastiff. I was looking forward to this match because I felt that their encounter a couple of weeks ago on NXT UK, maybe a month or two now out, that they had on NXT UK on TV was really good. The match that ended with them both on a count out, and then led to this match here, I thought was really, really good. And I was looking forward to them going at it again. The only thing that really bothered me here is the first match that they had together, they just laid into each other. They were just striking each other and trying to be the stronger guy. Here I felt the toys came in way too quickly and didn't give themselves enough room to actually build a match. The pool cues? Who the hell brings a pool cue to a wrestling show if they're not wanting to use it against someone? That's the only reason why you bring a pool cue to anywhere outside of a pool hall. If you're walking down the street with a pool cue, I am not messing with you because you're looking for trouble. You're ready to swing that at the first person who looks at you sideways. But so I guess this match probably would have benefited if the toys had come in later and would have if the toys had come in later and would have become a true deciding factor on who is the toughest of the two. Because they didn't even take time to establish that they're on even levels. They just went not immediately, but really, really early on, right for the bag of tricks. Of course, the top rope turnbuckle snapped, so that might have thrown a snafu into their plans. I laughed out loud when Dave Mastiff took the turnbuckle, like the metal part, which has two prongs like this, and stuck it up Joe Coffey's nose. I thought that was really, really funny. But yeah, so maybe the top turnbuckle sort of screwed things up for the boys here. But I thought that it was fun when they started brawling into the audience. I'm a big fan of that. I liked it when Cody and Shawn Spears did that last night, and it was fun to see this again. You know that spot where they both had a chair and Mastiff and Coffey, and they both went down an aisle, and then they put the chairs like this and they ran into each other. Suddenly I thought I was like in a dorm, in a college dorm, watching two drunk guys do something completely nonsensical. And then they both fall to the mat and to the ground. And they're like, suffer. Like, no. No. Anyway, this ends up around the commentary table. Mastiff takes it apart. He takes it apart. When I mean takes it apart, I mean he clears everything off the table, and he does a Finley roll on the table. Then they both get back to their feet onto the area where they did the pre-show, I guess the set. They tease a suplex, but then they fall off the set through a table. The ref starts the count. Joe makes it to his feet, and he sort of knocks Dave Mastiff's support. Dave Mastiff is trying to get up, and then Joe Coffey just sort of kicks it away. So Mastiff can't beat the 10 count. Joe Coffey stands alone at the end. First of all, I'm okay if their feud goes on, because I think there's a lot more to be done. I don't think this match is close to being a blow off. I think there's a lot more that can be eked out of here. I've said it once, I've said it again. Joe Coffey he's a money guy. He really, and I don't know why in this match it stood out even more. He reminds me of Triple H. He holds himself like Triple H, not in a copy kind of way where he's emulating. It's more like in his attitude, the way he holds himself. It's the same way Triple H, when he was coming up, how he'd present himself. Coffey has this stare. He has this very, very fierce, very natural charisma about him that you just, he can grab your attention. He has this command of the screen and the audience. He's really, really good at what he does. I swear, to me, he's another Triple H in the making. And I think he's just rough enough around the edges to draw very, very clear comparisons as to when Triple H started coming up. Once Austin got injured and he had to start moving into the title picture, and he was being positioned as a main event player, he needed a little polish. Like, he wasn't the smooth wrestler that he would later turn into, the ring general that he would turn into. But this is where Joe Coffey is right now. And, I think there's some, like I said, there's just some polish missing. But otherwise, he will be fantastic. I think this guy is an asset. He's a long-term asset for NXT UK and WWE. He has the physique and the look that even North American crowds will gobble up. I'm sold on Joe Coffey as far as him having a long career that can be very storied and where he can become a true superstar in the Oxford Dictionary definition of it. But there's something that has to click. There's something in his in-ring work that just needs some polish, and he will be on his way. Kaylee Ray defeated Toni Storm to become the new NXT UK Women's Champion. And by God, if we didn't need this, I didn't need to sit here on a Sunday afternoon talking with you guys. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what that means. Actually, I don't know what that comparison is all about. By the way, buy the goddamn t-shirt and show some support for your boy. tinyurl.com/tipwarren. Okay. I've been drinking coffee because I like coffee, and because it's interesting because it has a very soothing effect on me. And I know caffeine's not supposed to do that to you, but it does have a very soothing effect on me. And I think I need this. I think I need this, sort of to stay on top of things in regards to this match here in the state of the NXT UK Women's Division. If you watched my prediction show, which I did on Friday afternoon with Laura Morrow, who was gracious enough to join me, we talked rather in length about the pitiful state of the division. And the state that the division is in has everything to do with creative and booking. It has absolutely nothing to do with the women, because their roster is way too deep. All that NXT UK has in their division right now are women who made waves, not just had matches, women who made waves on the independent circuit across the UK and in Europe. Women who drew money and who had wars with each other. Of course, these two women here, Toni Storm and Kaylee Ray, Piper Niven. You know, but for a time there was Charlie Morgan there as well, but Nina Samuels, who's been underused, Ginny. It's mind-boggling the quality of wrestlers that are there, and people are not more excited about the women's division. And I don't know who is producing the women on NXT UK, but they need to have a stern talking to. They need to be turned around and say, look, I don't know what you're doing. Why you're keeping these women from doing what they're able to do? Because they are fantastic. You have main event level caliber talent. In the NXT UK women's division right now, why aren't they tearing the house down? Why did Toni Storm and Kaylee Ray, why is this not a match of the weekend contender? Why was this dry as paint? Not even drying paint that still has like qualities to it that make it interesting, like being humid and that it can stain. No, just dry paint. This was not good. I did not like this match. And I don't understand why this doesn't uncork. But this goes, again, this is not on the women because Kaylee Ray is cuckoo bananas. I cannot stress any more for you people to go out and find matches of Kaylee Ray anywhere, especially the ones she's had with Toni Storm or the ones that she's had with Piper Niven, Viper. She is absolutely fantastic. She is crazy, and I'll keep hammering this. I still remember when she premiered on NXT UK, Nigel McGuinness said they call her the female Sabu. And yeah, because she's nuts like that. She's not quite as over the top insane, like legitimately insane, like Sabu is. Like, you know, Sabu has issues, you know. But Kylie Ray has that same type of abandonment, sort of like throw caution to the wind attitude when she wrestles. Why haven't we seen that in NXT? We've seen her work, her technique. Her technique is impeccable. But what makes Kaylee Ray the spectacular woman that got everyone excited when she was signing, we haven't seen it. And I thought we were going to see that at NXT UK, but we didn't. Outside of that one dive where she almost landed on top of her head, nothing happened of any real, nothing memorable, nothing outstanding happened in that match. It felt like every other NXT UK Women's Division Women's Championship match that Toni Storm has had since winning the title off of Rhea Ripley. It's just been women lined up, tossed into a situation with Toni Storm, and then having the match and moving on. Nina Samuels is one of the biggest heels in Eve wrestling. She is tremendous at what she does. How the hell is she being neutered? Piper Niven can do more than just cannonballing onto people. She's athletic and crazy. Why aren't they letting the women do their thing? Ginny is one of these special talents who does not need a title to be on top of the division, to be on top of the game. She's literally like an Alexa Bliss. You don't need to put a title on Alexa Bliss, for Alexa to be interesting, for Alexa to be snarky or vicious. She just needs to be herself, basically. She just needs to be her character. Why aren't they giving the matches where they can tear the house down? And I swear, I don't believe that this is a question of, oh, they just don't get along, or it's just there's no chemistry. There is chemistry between Kaylee Ray and Toni Storm. The story about them being friends and so on and so forth it's legit. Kaylee Ray was a mentor to Toni Storm. This is legitimate. And they've had barn burners. But the problem goes throughout the entire division, and I said this on the prediction show, and I'll say it again. Toni Storm's run was dull. It was the beigest, most ordinary thing. It did nothing for Storm, did nothing for the title, and this is not on her. It's not on the women that she had to fight. It was because of the booking. It was the creative. It almost feels as if the women's title was booked as an afterthought. There is no reason why Toni Storm's feud with Ginny this summer, there was no reason to end it after 4 weeks and just she and her cutting off-camera promos against each other. There's no reason for it to have been that and to have it blow off with a 7-minute match. That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. The only thing that I can hope coming out of this match, and I really, really do hope, that the fact that they've given the title to Kaylee Ray, it will shake up the division a little bit. We'll get some, we'll get some new pairings. We'll get some new stuff. But goddamn, they have to let the women wrestle, and I mean like they can be wrestled. Like they can wrestle, excuse me. Now, I was reading that Tegan Knox has been is going to be showing up at the next set of NXT UK tapings. And that's fantastic because Tegan Knox is fantastic, but I'm terrified. At the same time, I'm absolutely terrified. And as Kristen Ashley pointed out in an article that she wrote recently for Fightful, this problem is systematic across WWE. There's a systematic problem with the way that they are using the women all across all divisions and all brands. Well, all women's divisions across all brands. And it just boggles the imagination. It's crazy. They're snatching up this premier indie talent in the UK. I swear it. And if you don't believe me, you just go out and seek it out. Look for their matches that they work against each other on the indies, and you will have your mind blown. You yourself will be like, why aren't they doing this on NXT UK? There is no reason for the women's division to be having such ordinary matches, not with the talent that they have accrued. If they were all fabulous mullahs as far as their talent levels go, well, then you temper your expectations. That'd be it. Oh, man. Robert Larry asks, what is next for Toni Storm? I think the best thing they can do right now is have Toni Storm pop off television for a while and have her come back at some point. I think she needs to reset here, because I don't see any reason to get excited for the only reason you can get excited for Toni Storm right now is because you are aware of her past and you know what she can do. If you're just watching NXT and this is your introduction to Toni Storm, you don't get it. You don't understand what's so special about her. So yeah, she needs some time off. Charles Harkins says, despite the state of the division, I still want Jamie Hayter to sign. Ugh, Jamie Hayter's so good. She's so good. she's having a great time. Great time in the currently in Stardom. I've started watching Stardom, by the way, thanks to my friend JPQ, Big Paws on a Pup, host of the No Particular Angle podcast. It's a good time to start watching Stardom because they're in their version of the G1, which is the 5-star Grand Prix. Lots of great matches going on there. I'm having a great time. And you should definitely check it out. And I can't wait to be able to talk about it a little more because now I'm still, I'm still dipping my toes in, getting a feel for the style, who's who, wrapping my head around the history, so I'm getting there. Soon your boy will be able to talk full on Stardom. I'm still very much a noob right now. Still not quite there yet. And Charles Harkins adds, in my opinion, Ginny is probably one of the top heels in WWE, man or women. Way better than Alexa and Becky. Becky's not a heel. Let's not get into that. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the main event. Walter successfully defended his United Kingdom Championship against Tyler Bate in a classic, in a match for the ages, in a fight that was needed for NXT UK to create some legitimate buzz. I don't care if you've never watched NXT UK before or not. This is the kind of match that you can drop into, watch, and enjoy from top to bottom. This was a magnificent effort. A spectacular show between two highly talented, top-tier wrestlers. I don't think I had as much fun watching an NXT UK match. No, that's not true. I'm retracting that already because I had a lot of fun watching Cesaro versus Ilya, and the tag team triple threat match as well was fantastic. There's nothing from Blackpool, from the last takeover, their first takeover, that comes to mind where I'm like, oh yeah, but this was really good. Like, there's nothing like Mustache Mountain versus Grizzled Young Veterans was good, but nothing like this. I think the last match that sticks into my mind like that was Pete Dunne versus Jordan Devlin, which was on NXT TV, and it lasted like 25 minutes. And it was outstanding. And you could tell that we were in for something special with the way that this match started off nice and slow and methodical. Of course, this is Walter's style. But, even when Bate was firing up, it wasn't like all out. They were pacing themselves. I had no idea we were in for a 45-minute marathon, or close to 45-minute marathon, but we got it. And Jesus Christ, did we get it. This was fantastic. Bate and Walter they fought each other before. They fought each other in Progress. I think there's a compelling argument to be made that this match was better than their Progress matches together. It was incredible, absolutely incredible stuff. Hang on, let me pull out some notes here. I've been skirting my notes a bit more, talking about, but I mean, there was just so much stuff here that was that just completely blew my mind. Bate was all about hitting some exploder suplexes on Walter. There was some fantastic near falls throughout the entire match. Let me see here. We had we even had Tyler Bate. The story of the match here was Walter really working the Tyler Bate's back to keep him from doing big strong boy things, but that didn't keep Tyler Bate from doing big, strong boy things. He was able to power through it. He hit a burning hammer. The burning hammer on Walter at that point, it just put me over. That was absolutely fantastic. Bate started soon after that started kicking Walter, and Bate followed up with got Walter onto the floor, followed up with 2 dives onto him. 2 dives. The second dive was nuts. Bate hit a nice delayed German suplex into a bridge for a 2 count. Walter blocked a first attempt at a Tyler Driver 97, but Bate eventually did hit it, but he got a 2 count on it. When Walter got his shoulders up, Bate went up top, hit a corkscrew moonsault onto him. The crowd was completely into this. They were completely into Tyler Bate here from the get-go. There was no question here that the audience wanted Tyler Bate to win. Walter, by the way, just laid in with the chops. Tyler Bate's chest was disgusting at the end of this match. It was absolutely disgusting. The beating that Tyler Bate took, because Walter was in control of most of this match. I'm talking about the spots that Bate was pulling out here. But Walter was in control for the great majority of this match. The story talking about Bate's resilience, his stick-to-itness, I guess, to try and get a win, try to avenge his buddies. He started hitting some Cobra Clutch suplexes on the apron. That looked so nasty. And he hit another one in the ring. Walter then hit a power bomb. Soon after that, he hit a power bomb, which is his finishing move. But Bate kicked out at 1, and the crowd erupted. Like, there were so many moments when this match, you thought it was over. And the crowd just went nuts. And you could see on Walter's face, he was like, what the hell is this? So when Bate got back up to his feet, Walter just ran the ropes and hit him with a crazy lariat that just turned him inside out. And that was it. That was enough for Bate. He couldn't take it anymore. This was something special. It really, really was something special. Walter here, they've been positioning him as, the great big final boss of NXT UK. It was Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne was the final boss, but Walter beat him. And Walter has taken the mantle of champion, and now they're creating this aura around him. And this kind of match just skyrockets that feeling. Who can defeat Walter? Not the original UK champion. He can't do it, despite the fact that he withstood most of his offense. He couldn't do it. The work was top notch. The story was fantastic. There was so much drama to it the entire way. And the crowd was so much into this. If they succeeded in making Walter a legitimate, huge, top-level heel bad guy champion who can legitimately hold the belt for months, and we won't complain. I don't know how they wanted to make it, but they created, they being WWE, I legitimately think that they created the top babyface in the entire company in Cardiff this weekend. On top of Johnny Gargano, on top of Seth Rollins, on top of Mustafa Ali, whoever. There is no one right now in WWE who is as convincing and as instantly loved as Tyler Bate. And the good thing about Tyler Bate as a babyface, For those of you who watch my show, you know I like to talk about stupid babyface syndrome, where suddenly when you become a babyface, you start doing really stupid, you start making really stupid decisions, such as Seth Rollins when he decides to accept challenges without understanding what the stipulations are. Or going out to fight Brock Lesnar when he's injured. Tyler Bate is not stupid. Everything he did here was calculated, even leading up to the fight in the past few weeks. The actions that he took, the situations that he got himself into with Walter, these were all calculated. He's not a dummy. And he's scrappy. He's going to do what he needs to win, and he'll have these moments, these rallying moments that you can just get behind, because when he does get these hot moments where he builds himself back up, he's so convincing and crisp and clear with it that you can't help but get behind him. Jesus Christ, this kid is 22 years old. 22 years old. Do you know what I was doing when I was 22 years old? You don't want to know. The point is that he's doing this mind-boggling, crazy stuff. At this age, he has the most spectacular career waiting for him. Whether he stays in NXT UK, whether he moves over to Raw and SmackDown, or even NXT at this point, I don't know how to position the brands anymore. Or even if he goes somewhere else. Tyler Bate is a made guy in wrestling. He is absolutely fantastic. He is exactly the kind of talent you can build a promotion around. And if they're taking Pete Dunne out of NXT UK for a while to cool him down, to keep him out of the title picture, because what do you do with Pete Dunne if he's not in the title picture, right? Which it's smart. It's smart to have him do stuff in NXT UK. That we're good with that. I think that's smart. Well, in the meantime, you have a guy like Tyler Bate who's just there and he's ready to pick up where they left off. This was fantastic. This is a match of the year. This is a match of the year and it has to show up on lists. It has to show up on lists. I swear. Anyone, look, I'm going to come right on and say it. Anyone who doesn't put this on their match of the year list, whether it's a top 10 or a top 20, if it's not there, you're a nerd. You're a nerd. Well, there you have it, folks. That was absolutely fantastic. And this was a strong card. This was a very, very strong card. I think the only real disappointment was the women. And it wasn't a bad match. I thought it was better than Baszler versus Mia Yim at TakeOver Toronto too. But it was just so flat. But I've already talked about it. This was a good show. You should take the time to seek it out. And if not, watch the whole thing. Watch the tag team triple threat. Watch Walter versus Bate. And Walter versus Bate is required viewing. It is absolutely required viewing if you are going to continue watching the MrWarrenHayes show. I'm kidding. You can do what you want. You can watch whatever matches and TV that you want, and I will still appreciate the fact that you all come out here, even on a Sunday afternoon, to listen to me talk about wrestling. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for dropping by. Make sure that you tune back in on Thursday, because I will be back with with the weekly MrWarrenHayes show. We're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff there. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at MrWarrenHayes if you want to find out what I'm going to be talking about. But ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you all so very, very much for joining, and I will see you next time.